Okay, so what are we working on today is the last topic for this week and the last worksheet also in your hands. This is the transformation. Transformation that we already did in the absolute functions as well as quadratic functions. Over there also you had A, H, and K. Similarly, it's mentioned over here. You see the big equation with a square root function, and you do see an A, H, and K. These will play the same role like it did last time. I will bring it up on the screen and show you what did we do when we were working on the absolute functions here. Okay, let's see if we have it here somewhere. Not on this one. Yes. Does it look similar? We have an A, we have an H here, and we have a K here also. What was A determining? Two things. If it reflects or not, if it's, you see over here, if A is less than 0, that means if the number in the beginning is negative, then what we concluded, it flips over the x-axis. I'm going to do the same thing over there in the square root function also. Then we had over here, if A is greater than 1, regardless of sign, if it's greater than 1, it will make the curve narrow, or it will give it a vertical stretch. If it's less than 1, then that will be a vertical shrink. These are the words that we're going to use it. So we're not solving anything. Today, this worksheet, it's just observing what's the value of A, what's the value of H, what's the value of K, and we will explain it in words. The same sentences that I will tell you. H determines if it's moving the function towards left or right. Got it? Same thing. Now, let me show you one more thing. You'll like it. If we will go to the quadratic functions, we did the same thing over here in the quadratic functions also, like this. Remember? Does it ring some bells? Here also, we looked at the same thing. We had an A, an H, and a K. We used the blue color for the H, red color for the K, and green for the A. And I just tried to connect the same things over here. If A is less than 0, then parabola reflects over x-axis. If A is less than 1, what does that do? That will make a vertical compression on the plot. The plot will look compressed. If A is greater than 1, then it's a vertical stretch, the third point. Similar thing, now we are going to bring it over here. You see this now? What do we have here? We have here now. Okay. Now, what are we going to mention for the A, H, and K? One by one. Let's look at that. Nothing different. I'm just going to reproduce the same stuff that we did last time. Graph will have the same impacts. One by one. Starting with the A here. Let's see. So looking at A, this one, I'm going to describe two things for it. What two things? First thing over here, if A is less than 0, what will it do? If A is less than 0, the conclusion that we will make based on that, we will claim reflects over the curve, obviously, reflects over x-axis. That's what we will claim based on if A is less than 0. If A is not less than 0, then it will just be a parent function with nothing changed. And then after that, we will have two conclusions about A. One was if it's less than 0, positive or negative. The other one, if it's greater than 1 or if it's less than 1. And I'm putting these absolute lines because We don't care about the sign when we are checking if it's less than or greater than 1. We don't need to we don't need to be bothered by the sign, even if it's -2. The number is bigger than 1. So that's what will help us to determine if A is greater than 1, we will say it's a vertical stretch. It's causing a vertical stretch to the curve, right? Then after that, if A is less than 1, let me highlight it one more time. If this A, the absolute value of A, is less than 1, then what will that mean? We will simply claim that this is a vertical shrink. We can use the word shrink, or we can also say compression. That's what you will claim every single time when you will observe that the number replacing A is less than 1. What can be an example for the A less than 1? A can be 1/2. A can be 0.5. In both cases, 1/2 or 0.5 is going to be the vertical shrink factor. And in the other one, A can be a 2 or A can be a 5 even. In these cases, you will claim that the curve will stretch with a factor of 2 and a 5. Now, whatever I just said, what do we mean by this? What do we mean by the shrink? What do we mean by the stretch on the curve? Let's look at this in actual happening. How will it be working? Here, I will open Desmos. And in Desmos, I will show you what did we mean by this, right? F of x. I have the f of x over here, which is equal to a times square root of x. Did I have anything else other than a? I have not added any h or k. We will just be looking at the impact of a. When a is 1, that means the function is just square root of x. With that function, this is the original curve in its real shape. Okay, starts from 0, and that's how it goes on. What I will do now, I will put a -1 and look at the impact. By just adding a -1 over there, a negative sign, now it's less than 0. So what happened? The curve reflected over x-axis. Make sense? Curve reflected over x-axis. Where did we write that? We have mentioned it over here. If a is less than 0, then the curve reflects over x-axis. That's how it happens. And then if I will remove the negative sign from there, it will get back above the x-axis, the parent function square root of x. I will bring it. Now let's see if I will have a equals a 3. I'm just going to change the value of a to a 3 and see what happens to the curve. It's stretched, right? Like somebody pulled it up from upwards and it's the vertical stretch. And if I will make it something like 2, the stretch is still there, but it's lesser. So as the number gets bigger, the stretch will be definitely steeper. Now, if I will put instead of a number greater than 1, less than 1, what will happen? 0.2 is a smaller number. You see, that's the vertical compression or the vertical shrink. We meant this. Now, let's keep on going. How to write? How to look at the h now. I will explain the h and k, and then we are almost done. I will just show you 2 examples, and then I will let you respond to the questions one by one. What will h decide here? H, if your h is less than 0, how will it look like in the function itself? If h is less than 0, that will look like something x plus 3. H less than 0, but you see, don't miss it. The key point to note here, this is a negative sign. The h is with a negative sign over here. So it will always change the sign. In the square root, it will look like a plus, but the h itself is negative. So h will always have the opposite sign. In this case, x plus 3, what's the movement? I will claim that if h is less than 0, then the curve translates left. By how many units? It will translate in this case with the 3 units. And then if h is greater than 0, how will that look like? That will look like x minus 4. Now it's a negative. And whenever you will see inside the square root a negative sign, you should claim that that is translating. The curve translates or shifts or moves. All those things, and where will it move? Towards the right side. By how many units? In this case, translates 4 units. Translates right. So h is now causing the function to move in 2 directions. Which 2 directions? It will either move the function to the left side, move or translate, or to the right side. Got it? H will move the function to the left or to the right. I'm just going to explain it one more minute, and when you will look at the example, you will definitely understand that. K. What type of a movement will K bring in here? The K will translate the function up or down. 2 movements here. Which 2 movements? Up or down will be determined by the K. How will I recognize if it's a K or not? A number which is added or subtracted outside the square root, like this over here. Square root finishes, you see, square root was up till h. K is out of the square root. When this number is positive, by positive I mean, whenever k is greater than 0, it will move the function up. And if k is less than 0, that will move the function down. Got it? Notes are there. Don't forget to take notes from here. If you missed something, take a picture of this. If you missed something, take a picture of this. Keep it safe with you. I will now show you the same thing. How will it work with an example? How will it work with an example? Okay, good. Just taken. By the way, this is recorded. Everything that we are saying or everything that we have on the screen, I will be adding it right after the lesson into your cameras. Okay, so that you can go through the same things again one more time. Now, keep that key that we just constructed in front of you, and based on that, the hamburger is back. Based on this key or the rules, we are now going to work on this thing. What is it saying? The first function that we need to explain here, we need to recognize that what is the A here, what's the K here, and what's the H. Can you tell me, do we have any K here? Where will I look for the K? Outside the square root. There is no K, right? Nothing added or subtracted outside the square root. Do we have something subtracted or added inside the square root? Yes, that's the h, right? Do we have something as a multiple there? Whatever is that multiple, that's going to be the a. So what's the multiple here? -1. Number is not there, but at least the sign is there. So that tells me clearly that a here is less than 0. And whenever a is less than 0, how will the curve look like? What should I claim based on that? I will pick the wording that I just mentioned to you over there in the key, and I will say it here. Reflects over x-axis. That's one of my claims. And next week, in your test, you will have something like 4 or 5 questions where you will just be determining the translations, the transformations. What is it saying? Reflects over x-axis, moves right or left, shifts up or down. That's what you will be claiming in the test next week. Okay? Next week you have a test over this. Second thing, now let's explain the h. What's the h here? H is obviously greater than 0. No, it's less than 0. Don't fall to the trap. What is it? It's less than 0. Why? Because h is always opposite in sign. H is less than 0. It's positive, and whenever it's positive, you will claim it's less than 0. And what will you conclude based on that? This is your conclusion. Translates left. What are you claiming? You're saying it's translating to the left side based on the blue highlight. It translates to the left side by 1 unit. That's what we are saying. By 1 unit. Same number that is there in the blue highlighted stuff. By that number, it's moving left. And if it's a negative, what will you claim? Moves right. If you will see here a plus, you will say move left. Right, Marco? Make sense? Last thing, is there a K here? No. So there is no vertical movement. The curve will stay like this. Let's explain it looking at the curve in decimals. So what have we changed? Let's look at if it's actually happening. What I'm going to do over here, we did not have an H in our case, but I will bring it now. Let me now, instead of an A, put over there a -1. You see, the curve is there already, square root of x. If I will put the negative sign like we have over there in the question, it reflects. That's what we explained in wording as a first thing, reflects over x-axis. Second thing that I'm going to do over here, what was the number? Added inside? +1. So if I will put the +1 over here, keep on looking at the curve, how will it be impacted? I will put over here x square root of x, and here I will put a +1. What happened to the curve? I have two statements. One is saying it moved down, the other one is saying it moved left. Let's look at this. When it was over there, nothing, it was at 0. Right? It looks like it moves down, but actually what's happening? It's moving left. It doesn't make sense like this, but if I will put an H there, now you will definitely see if it's moving left or right. Look at this. I replaced that 1 with an H, and now if it's going to the negative side, it's moving right. If it's going to the positive side, it's moving left. Make sense? So whenever you will have over there x plus a number, it will move left. Whenever you will have an x minus a number, it will move to the right by the same number. Got it? That was the impact of the h. Now, we have already explained the two translations, and I'm almost done. I will not continue. Just need to show you one thing here. How will the k impact your curve? Up and down, exactly. So how many things are here to explain? Like in this case, we explained 2 things, right? But now, in this case, how many things do we have to explain? We definitely need to explain this 7. And what's this 7? A, H, or K? It's a K. So let's keep it here. I will explain the K, and how does the K look like over here? It's definitely less than 0, right? Because it's negative. K has the same sign. Now, what's the second thing that I need to explain here? H. H is greater than 0. Why is it greater? It's negative. I told you, H will always be opposite in sign. Okay? This will explain the leftwards movement. And then we have an A also. And how does A look like? A is definitely less than 1. So that will give me the third explanation of the curves transformation that I'm going to put over there. I will leave that on you. But I will show you over here in Desmos. Look at this. In Desmos, what's the h in this case? -4, right? So in Desmos, what I will do, I will bring it back here to Desmos. And h, I will simply put h equals -4. You can do that. Or you can write in the whole function over here. Let's look at this with another approach. So that's the parent function, right? Everyone? This is the parent function. What we can do here, we can bring in the function which is given to you in your question as g of x, so that you will clearly see how the function has moved. That was a 3/4 times square root of x minus, what was that, minus or plus? Minus 4 the 4 should be inside the square root, and then after that I have a -7. So can you look at the board now and tell me what happened to the curve from the red to the purple? It moved down because of that 7. How far did it go down? 7 units. How many units did it move, right? 4 units down. And did it get a stretch or a shrink? What do you think? It shrunk. By which factor? 3/4. It got shrunk by the factor of 3/4. That's exactly you will be writing over there in your other board, in your worksheet. Now follow the words, last thing, and we are done. A here will be explained by vertical shrink, right? And you will add these words by a factor what? Just write down the number there. By a factor 3/4. Whatever was the number here in place of an a, that number will be written over there by a factor of 4. And then what I will explain for the h translates which side? Left or right? Mike? Which side is it translating to? Look at the key that I gave you in the worksheet. Which side is it translating to? Right, exactly. It's translating to right by how many units? By 4 units. Why? Because the h here is 4 units, right? So we just picked the number, stated the translation or the transformation, and then we are done. For h, for the k, it translates. So a and k will both simply translate the curve left or right, up or down. So where is it moving, up or down? Because the k here is negative, right? If it's negative, then down here. So it's moving down by how many units? Same number that we have there, 7 units. 7 units, because outside the square root, we have a 7. That's it. That explains the whole thing that you need to do on this worksheet. You just need to mention the transformations, translations, and you're done. Here, just to let you know, there is one more catch here. Another way of looking at the things, if it's telling you to think about the function based on wording, vice versa. What is it telling you here? A vertical stretch by a factor of 2? Where do you mention the vertical stretch? On A, H, or K? A will mention it. So I'm just going to think about the whole square root function. Where do you normally place the A? Here, outside, right? Where do you place the H? You will place the H here. Is it translated left or right? This isn't translated left or right. Where has it translated? Up. And where do you mention the movement which is upwards? Out of the square root, right? So I will just bring in the X here. There is no H. There is no H. So blue will remain empty. 2 is the factor of vertical stretch. And then I moved up, so it's a +3. That's how you will mention. From wording, you're getting the function. From the given function, you're writing the wording, and that's what is the whole worksheet on. Make sense? Everybody good?